Hanging out with a guy that I grew up listening to, even though he's not that much older than me. But Doug Logan had parts to do with racing for about 4 decades. You remember, of course, This Week on Dirt, Rush Hour on Dirt, and various broadcasts over the years.
Right.
In addition to that, he was sports director at Channel 9 in Syracuse and the voice of the Orange. My dad always jokes how well you could fit those sponsors in. And let's talk about the good folks at Ground Round.
Good for you.
You remember that, right?
Of course I remember.
So how have you been? You look great.
I've been great. Thank you very much. Trying to beat the clock, trying to beat Father Time. But living in Central New York and also spending some time in Southern California with my son, it's good.
So how did all this start, the racing side of this? How did you get involved in all of this?
Well, I was born and raised in Northwest Indiana, and so every Memorial Day weekend was like a coming out party. We'd get the baseball gloves out and start playing catch, and we'd turn the Indianapolis 500-mile race on the radio and listening to Sid Collins. And it was radio is such a wonderful medium because it takes you places, okay? And so on Memorial Day weekend, I was gone to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the greatest spectacle in racing. And so when I came to Syracuse to broadcast Syracuse University football and basketball games, Coach Dick McPherson was the head football coach at Syracuse, and Glenn Donnelly invited Coach Mack and his coaching staff to Weedsport to drive cars around the track.
No kidding.
And so I came out to cover it because I was broadcasting the Syracuse games. I wanted to be wherever Coach Mack was because he was a magnetic person. And so anyway, and I met Glenn, and we started talking about racing, and it was a marriage, let's put it that way, because Glenn was looking to get dirt motorsports on television, particularly network television, and he needed someone that might be the voice and the face. And I'd like to think it worked out very, very well for everyone involved.
What was it like at first learning this new, because obviously Indianapolis is that, but this is a different deal. What was it like learning this form of racing?
Well, it was a huge learning curve, thus enter Andy Fusco. Because the first This Week on Dirt show, half-hour television show that we recorded, I actually recorded with Glenn Donnelly. He was my co-host. And he lasted 1 week. And he goes, I'm going to hand this thing off now to Andy Fusco. Gotcha. And so whenever I would show up for the taping of This Week on Dirt, and Terry Rumsey or Patrick Donnelly would tell us what the show was going to contain, I leaned heavily on Andy Fusco until I got my feet wet. And Andy was spectacular. So I would say full credit for the success of the show, at least on camera, to Andy Fusco. Okay. Then we got it going, and the show morphed a little bit, and eventually it was a one-man show, and taped right here at the museum, and the Hall of Fame and Classic Car Museum. And I consider it to be the fastest half hour on television.
Wasn't that the phrase I think we used at the time?
It could have been, but it was a wonderful show.
It really was.
I happened to be on it, happened to have great people working around and supporting, like Andy Fusco. I love the show, and I think that if you poll the dirt racing fans, they might have liked it too.
And that same background they used to use is here in the Hall of Fame at the different end too.
Yes.
So it is still here. I've always said, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, in a world of streaming, and actually I'll make the analogy with pro boxing when they went to pay-per-view. The one thing I thought that This Week on Dirt did was it got the casual sports fan or whatever. They'd be flipping through their TVs at 11:30 on Channel 9 and, hey, wait, that's Brewton Speedway, that's Weedsport. I really think it helped the sport grow. Do you?
Well, there's no question about it. And as I get introduced here this evening, Glenn Donnelly will be talking about
that's
that.
Fantastic.
He needed to get the kind of exposure that it deserved. Streaming wasn't exactly an option back then in the early 80s.
VHS.
But still in all, accessibility. Mm-hmm. Accessibility in the home is a key. And as I say, if your product is strong enough, is compelling enough, folks will find that channel and then they'll stay on it.
They will.
And they won't even have a chance to blink, and This Week on Dirt will be over. And they'll say, wow, that was neat.
Yeah, the Weekend Wars, the highlight
Oh,
packages,
yeah,
all
it's
that
great,
stuff.
as you know.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah, and of course, then Rush Hour on Dirt, you and Gary Montgomery and all that crew for so many years.
So
it was kind of like we had a little circus on the road almost, right?
Well, that's very true. And allow me to say that my passion from growing up is the Indianapolis 500-mile race. But I'm telling you, with Rush Hour on Dirt and the Skull Bandit racing series, you know, and you know, going to Canandaigua, and of course Weedsport and Rolling Wheels and Drummondville and the going down to Orange County and so on. It was a bit of a traveling circus, but boy, oh boy, was that exciting. And as much as I love the Indianapolis 500, if you're talking about week-to-week racing, there is, in my opinion, there's nothing better in the world than seeing those big block modifieds take the track.
Of course, we had one more chance to do it again. I think it was 20. I'm trying to think when it was. When did we do those series of races at Rolling Wheels? If you had,
yeah,
you were with Bob McCreadie.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Bob McCreadie in the booth, and so I'm pretty fortunate. The last basketball game I ever broadcast nationwide was an NCAA tournament game, and my broadcasting partner was Dave Gavitt, who founded the Big East. Mm-hmm. And for racing, my last broadcasting partner was Barefoot Bob McCreadie. And what a gentleman.
Yes.
And there was no hyperbole with him in the broadcast booth. What he said, he meant, and was poignant. I mean, it got right to the point. And so he was fantastic. And as a race car driver, I mean, he was a fierce competitor, but a fair driver, a great champion, understated.
Yes.
And so he was the kind of person that anybody in the stands would feel happy if he won. He was so easy to root for.
No, you're right.
A real gentleman.
If you saw him in the pit area, you wouldn't even know that he was a race car driver. He was just
no, you
laid
wouldn't.
back and no, I mean like beforehand.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's it going to be like going into the Hall of Fame today?
Well, an honor. Let's face it, a big honor. And as you know, it's a team. You know, so as my name gets added on that wall with the likes of Terry Rumsey and Patrick Donnelly, I would like to see another plaque someday for the entire Dirt Television crew.
I agree.
Because they are magnificent at what they do. So the names on the wall may be, you know, Terry Rumsey, Patrick Donnelly, and Doug Logan, but we represent a great team of professionals.
It's true. We really did have a great team on the road, and it was a lot of fun. So thank you for everything you did for me. I got to work with you a couple of times.
Thank you for all you continue to do for racing. I mean, you should be very, very proud, and you're promoting a tremendous product.
I think that's what we both have in common. You know, we love the sport, we love the guys, and
it's just one of the things we have in common.
Somebody has to shine the light, and I'm glad that we can share the fact that we did that.
I'm honored.
You have a great day today.
Thank you.
Thank you.